Langston Patterson will have a monster year in Clark Lea's defense. Cameron Kozeal is a monster at the plate as Vandyboys sweep in Houston. Let's go.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Happy Monday. Hope you guys had a great weekend. On today's episode, we delve into what will make Langston Patterson a monster in Clark Lea's defense. Also, the Vandyboys are on fire indeed, especially Cameron Kozeal, who helped lead a massive comeback against their future SEC mates in Texas. And the bullpen, the pitching staff, all of the pitchers, they're starting to find some answers there, and we're gonna explore that even further. This episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Well, take Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out today at nissanusa.com. So, in order for Vandy to win games, all right, the offense has to eat, obviously, and the defense needs stops. Well, how does Clark Lea ensure, as defensive coordinator, that they get these stocks? Well, he has Langston Patterson in the center of his defense, and he's going to have a monster season for the Commodores defense. And so much of this is predicated on the new aggressive scheme that I think that you're going to see from Clark Lea. I think there's a lot to be had as far as putting him in positions to make all kind of plays. So one of the biggest boost of confidence, one of the biggest, I guess you could say, shot in the arm, just with the Dr. Order, whatever idiom you want to use, was Langston Patterson being one of those people who announces they are actually returning to the program. So I'm very excited about that. And when you have a player as the caliber of Langston Patterson patrolling your defense, I think you're in really, really good shape. So again, he's going to be starting as a Mike linebacker. He collected 47 tackles, 1 sack, and an interception through 8 games last season as a reserve. This year he's going to get it. This year he's going to get that prominent role, and I'm very, very excited for it. Scheme wise, what you're going to see from this defense, okay, and how it affects Langston Patterson, because Langston Patterson is going to be one of the stars of this defense. It's going to be C.J. Taylor, Langston Patterson, and probably Corday Sendor, the transfer, are most likely going to be the stars of this defense. I'm not sure who's going to emerge from the defensive line just yet. That will settle itself out. Somebody will be a star there. So Langston Patterson is a very rangy playmaking linebacker. He's somebody that's going to find the football. If it's on the ground, he's going to scoop it and go, just like you see in the thumbnail. He's going to make plays in the backfield. He's going to disrupt throwing lanes, things like that. He's going to kind of get this defense set the way it needs to be set. And if you don't understand kind of what I'm talking about, what the key to what a good Mike linebacker does is he is going to make sure, because Clark Lea's defense, if you know one thing about his defense, is they're going to move around. And in moving around, there's potential, for big plays, but let's just say this, there's potential for big plays as well. Think about that. When you move guys up front, when you slant gaps, when you shoot gaps, when you twist, when you stunt, and when you do all these things, when you blitz linebackers, yeah, there's a lot of potential for big plays, but there's also a lot of potential for big plays going the other way as well. So, obviously we're going to see a little bit of that. Just go ahead and get your mind ready, because there are going to be some plays that the other team makes because Vanderbilt will blitz and not get home. But for somebody like Langston Patterson, I think he's going to be one of those, and you'll see this, he's going to be one of those that's going to get the defensive line set just right. And what that means is in those stunts, in those slants, or whatever the case may be for the movement up front, because they're not just going to play read technique, is you have to set the strength. And sometimes your slants are based on strength. Sometimes they're based on field. Sometimes they're based on a certain adjustment that they've made throughout the week in scouting. It could be a number of things. But Langston Patterson has got to be the one that's going to communicate that to the defensive line so that they know, okay, we gotta attack this. And he's going to be the one to say, hey, watch for this, watch for that. On the sidelines making adjustments. Hey, they're doing this with their guards. They're really favoring this, or they're really favoring that. They're really weak here. They're really weak there. We can attack them with this. He's going to be the one that the coaches look for feedback coming off the sideline. And I think that's going to be very, very important, because he's going to find himself in a lot of really good situations to make a ton of plays. And when you as a play caller, Clark Lea, okay, just imagine this, as he's calling plays, as he's looking at his play sheet, as he's trying to figure out the situations, they're going to have scouted tendencies, and they're going to have a plan and know where each person's going to be, what likely you're going to see, and just how they need to play it. They're going to have a plan for that. And so in doing so, they can communicate that through Patterson. And I think that's why Patterson is going to be the key, because he's a guy that's been around Clark Lea. He's a playmaker. He's a known playmaker. And I think you're going to see a huge boost and a huge emotional boost to this defense. And so I like that. I think if I'm Clark Lea as a play caller, I'm comfortable with that. I know that I can be aggressive because, hey, my defensive line is going to eat up blocks. They're going to take up gaps. They're going to disrupt pulls and things like that. They're going to get rid of good blocking angles. And Langston Patterson and that linebacking core are going to be there to clean it up. And so you can't go wrong with all of that. You have to, I think if you're going to be a good play caller, defensive play caller, you have to have a good piece at the Mike linebacker. You have to have a smart, heady player that gets what you're trying to do, that can get everybody in that front seven on the same page. He can make the adjustments. He can make calls on the fly. He can run down things that are on the edge. He can make sure that your screw up doesn't hurt as bad. And I'm excited for it. I think Vandy fans should be excited for it. We talked about CJ Taylor being that guy for the back end of the defense. I think Marlon Jones coming in is going to have a huge season, but it's all going to be predicated on what kind of pressure they're able to get and what kind of how does Langston Patterson fit into this scheme? He's got to be the key cog to that front seven. He's got to be the one that makes it go. If they're going to win, he's got to be that guy, and I think that he will, because he's shown in flashes. Obviously he was a backup last year. He was a second string guy, but he did play a lot, and he did show that when he was in there, he could make an impact. You've seen his potential. You've seen his playmaking ability. You've seen his knack for the football. He's going to get it done. And I'm very excited to watch this defense, because when you have an aggressive defense that moves around a lot, which I anticipate Vanderbilt doing, Langston Patterson, somebody like that at Mike linebacker, is going to be, he's going to feast. He's going to have a lot of plays. He's going to have a lot of tackles. He's going to have a lot of things that he can do within that defense, and a lot of freedom that he's going to have to move around and make calls within that defense, that you're going to be kind of surprised that, hey, Vandy's starting to actually play with, quote, I'm doing the air quotes for all you audio side people, quote, no-namers, right? And so you got a guy like that that can make some of these D-line guys right. And there's going to be some D-line guys that also benefit from Langston Patterson doing his thing, right? And so I'm excited for one. I know Clark Lea's got to be excited. That's another key element. And so I'm super, super optimistic about what he brings to the table. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. And so, where do you go from there, right? And so, Kane Patterson, to wrap this point up, Kane Patterson and Langston Patterson. Kane Patterson, I don't know what's going on with him right now, but Langston Patterson, is going to be a key part to this defense. I think he's going to have a monster season. I think he's going to lead this thing. I was just looking up the Patterson brothers. Apparently, Kane left. I didn't pay too much attention to Vanderbilt football last year, but he left in the Missouri game with an injury. So I was just Googling that. That's my squirrel moment. So Langston Patterson, monster season. Book it. All right. Another thing you can book, Vandy sweeping in Texas. That's another thing you can book. Had a phenomenal weekend in Houston, and we'll talk about it. All right. Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Do you ever wonder what adventure could be lying around the next corner? Well, our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with capabilities to take your adventure next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue. It's perfect for city drives and great escapes. Its class exclusive Google built-in is your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. Yeah, infotainment. I love that word. I'm going to circle back to that word. The 2024 Rogue is perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. Now, the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder has room up to 8, expansive cargo capacity, and advanced available 4x4 capability. With 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds towing, when adventure calls, the Pathfinder's there to answer. So take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Okay, welcome back. Segment number 2. Yes, Langston Patterson is going to be a beast, just so you know. Man, it's going to be awesome. But thank you for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. Make sure, check out Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy does a phenomenal job over there. Just make sure you check all that out. Make sure you check out all the Locked On SEC shows, Locked On Auburn, Locked On Ole Miss, Locked On Georgia. 3 of my favorites right there. Locked On LSU. Check that one out. Got to love that one. So love all of these. So anyway, baseball, man. Talked last week a little bit. They started to kind of get their groove. They started to kind of find some answers, especially with the pitching staff. I know that's what they were looking for. They were looking for a little confidence. They were looking for a little more consistency with the bats. Well, let's just say little old trip to Houston, Texas, solved a lot of problems. All right. And one of those performers, man, Cameron Kozeal should be Kozeal. It really should be Kozeal. Missed out an opportunity for a cool name there. Cameron Kozeal, but it's not. It's Cameron Kozeal. So Cameron Kozeal is crushing the baseball right now. Absolutely crushing, right? And so when you watch, it's so much fun to watch him at the plate. It really is. He is. It seems like every game he's making an impact, right? He drove in 3 runs. He had a 4-for-5 day at the plate against Texas. I mean, he was very pivotal in the comeback against Texas. They were down 8 runs and they scored 11 unanswered and won in the Sunday game against future SEC mate Texas. And he drove in 4. and also Espinal and Vastine has been crushing the ball too. So, but Cameron Kozeal to be a freshman, Kozeal, there you go, Cameron Kozeal. I'm just like trying to will it into existence at this point, but Cameron Kozeal being a freshman is somebody that when you look at how a freshman is supposed to act this early in the season, they're not supposed to be able to adjust to this type of pitching. They're not supposed to have this much success. Like, that's not what freshmen do unless they're a complete, absolute freak. And that's what Cameron Kozeal is. He's an absolute freak at the plate, man. He is. He's DHing. He's gonna. I mean, he obviously has a regular role. If he continues hitting like this, that role will never go away. He is just annihilating the baseball, right? He is. Let's see. What was his stats on his stats? Let's see. He had some doubles. I mean, every time you see a Vandy baseball highlight, it's Cameron Kozeal, and the guy is absolutely crushing, and I love it. And so, and for him to be just a freshman is something that's absolutely massive as well. So you have to give, and Bolger gave him high praise too. I mean, the guys recognize it. I mean, they get excited when he's at the plate. They have. I mean, you're starting to see a lot more confidence in the lineup too. I mean, when you have a guy hitting like that and he's a freshman, you know, these other guys, Alan Espinal, Jonathan Vastine, Troy Leneve, RJ Austin, they're all getting in on the action now because they're more comfortable at the plate. Like early in the season, it seemed like everybody was kind of pressing because nobody really trusted anything, right? I mean, they felt like they had to win the game on every swing. And now it just seems like, you know, after the Indiana State game, it just seemed to get kind of easier, and they seem to get more relaxed at the plate. And the approach for every batter in the lineup. I mean, Polk came in very late addition to the lineup when Hewitt was sick. Polk came in and filled in very admirably, hit a bomb. And, it just goes to show that like this lineup, once they start to kind of figure out what, I think Tim Corbin's starting to get some answers there. They've kind of figured out what to, how to align it, I should say. I couldn't really find the right word there, but like, RJ Austin, he was 1 for 5. Kozeal, 4 for 5. Espinal, 2 for 5. This is Sunday. 2 for 4 with Diaz. Kozeal scored 3 runs, drove in 3 runs. He scored 3 times. Polk was, unfortunately 0 for 3, but he drove in a run. Calvin Hewitt, 1 for 5. I mean, some of these guys are like, I don't know. It's just, they're more comfortable at the plate. And that's something that can't be understated when you're getting into conference play, to have that plate discipline, to be able to drive the baseball, to be able to know, again, I'm going to bring this up too. Clutch experience. I said it before, and unfortunately it was used, fortunately and unfortunately, it's been used in situations where they should have won these games handily. But it can't be understated that those skills came in handy against a team with the caliber of Texas. Like, you're going to face teams like Texas. You're going to face teams like Indiana State. Those clutch skills came in handy against Indiana State, right? Because they were going up against a pitcher that they couldn't touch, allegedly. But they went in and touched up that pitching staff for 20 runs and made that super regional team look like very pedestrian. They dominated Louisiana. They had really good plate approach there. They just seem more confident, more comfortable, just more relaxed. Never panic, especially Sunday. Clutch skills. They're going to need those. They're really going to need those, especially when they get closer to the end of the regular season. They're looking for seeding purposes. They're going to have to win some game where pitching breaks down or hitting breaks down early, or your starter gets knocked out of the game in the third inning, and you look up and you're down 11-3. Oh wait, that happened yesterday. But you're going to be in situations like that somewhere down the road against like Tennessee or Ole Miss. If you're playing against Ole Miss, you're going to be in that situation against Georgia. You're going to be, somebody's going to put you in that situation. Multiple people may put you in that situation. But Vandy has shown time in and time again that they can get themselves out. The bullpen, which we'll talk about here in a minute, the bullpen pitched their way out of it, right? They held down the fort so the offense could get going, and the offense did just that. And that's complimentary baseball. Offense goes, hey, pitching staff's holding it down. We can relax. They got it, man. They're going to give us chances. So we can relax and just go out there and just groove it, man. And that they did. Then they started scoring runs. And then once they got the first run across, once they started, they couldn't stop. And clutch skills, much needed clutch skills, right? So pitching staff finds a lot of answers. Also, that was exciting for this weekend. We'll talk about that more next. All right. FanDuel. That's right. You can get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. So bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, wrapping up here. The Locked On Vandy podcast. Thanks again for making us your first listen. Thank you to the everydayers. If you're an everydayer and you're sticking around, love you, man. I'm up to 200 subs. Let's get up to 250 by the end of the month. We're cruising our way to 1,000. We're going to be a quarter of the way there by the end of March. We're gonna make a big push to get halfway by the start of the summer, and then by the start of football season, hopefully we'll be at 1,000 subs here, and we'll be rocking and rolling. So I'm excited for you. Follow us on social media. We got some big things happening, and I'm very, very excited. So let's continue this thing, right? Boom. Gave you the old watch look. So the pitching staff is starting to find some answers too. Now, I talked about complimentary baseball, and one of the things that has to happen for Davis Diaz, for Troy Lanier, for Jonathan Vastine, for Cameron Kozeal, Alan Espinal, for them to get going, they have to know that the pitching staff is not going to make their efforts all for naught. And the pitching staff has got to know that, hey, if we're going to go out there and shut them down, we got to know that you're going to give it back to us, right? So Ryan Ginther comes in. He got 2 strikeouts in the top of the ninth. He pulled a save, right? Sawyer Hawks comes in, middle relief. He threw 2 scoreless innings. He just happened to earn the win there because he was in when they took the lead. Something that Sawyer Hawks desperately needed, right? That was probably one of the best things about this weekend, is that somebody like Sawyer Hawks was able to come in and get the win. So it was good to see there the bullpen get some more action and get some more success, because I think he had another really good outing on Saturday too. He comes in and was dealing a little bit. So you have to love that. Despite some of the starters not having solid performances, Carter Holton, Friday night, he was sharp, but then, had some bad luck. He was sharp for like 3 innings on Friday. then had some bad luck and just surrendered a bunch of hits, and they piled up some runs, and he was taken out in the 6th inning. He battled, but it was one of those things where it just, I don't know, it just didn't quite have his stuff. And somebody who hadn't quite had their stuff was Bryce Cunningham. And when I say he hasn't had his stuff, I'm not talking about Saturday when he struck out 8. He was brilliant in Saturday's game against Houston. You just watch him. He's got such a smooth delivery. He's, too many of these right-handed pitchers, and this is one thing. This is a weird quirk of mine that, when I'm watching college baseball, it just bugs me. And I don't know why it does. It's probably pretty unreasonable, but it just bugs me watching some of these right-handers throw, and it looks like they're trying to be some random pitching coach's teaching tape. And it's very herky-jerky. It's very like robotic. It's very like they look like almost like a pitching machine. And they all look the same too, which is, they all have the same motion. They all have the same release. They all have the same, it just seems like the same action. And they all have the same problems. And to see Bryce Cunningham, he has that smooth windup, smooth delivery, the arm slot, the ball just pops off his hand, and the slider just has a lot of bite to it, and he's able to pull the string on it and he's just smooth, man. He's had some tough luck at the beginning of the season, but he had a really nice outing Saturday. Got the dub there, struck out 8. Was good to see. Saw your Hawks, Ryan Ginther, getting some good action out of the pen. Some of these other guys also getting action out of the pen. Carter Holton getting some good experience. Didn't quite go too well for him, but I think he's still, to be honest, locked in as the Friday guy. And then it's tough luck today for who pitched today. It was I'm gonna go back to the box score, but it was tough luck for Devin Futrell. But Dukanich, Hawks, and Ginther came in and threw really good. Futrell got lit up, 7 earned runs and 2 innings pitched, just not very good. Only had 1 walk. They just hit him. They just crushed him. Dukanich, same thing. He pitched 3 innings, but he got lit up as well. Hawks came in the 6th, pitched 2, and Ryan Ginther pitched 2 to close it out and get the save. So they were able to hold it down late, but Dukanich and Futrell they just didn't have it, man. They really just didn't have it. And so you had to look at it and say, okay, well, this is pitching, this is baseball, it's going to happen. But the bullpen came in, held it down so that the offense could come back and win. So that's exciting. That's something that's positive. That's something that needed to happen for this team. And so Carter Holton, 5 innings pitched, 3 runs, 4 hits. Grayson Carter comes in. Miller Green comes in and slams the door, gets the save. So like you have some guys competing out for that closer role. Grayson Carter, somebody that just comes in and he's going to eat up some of these starter innings, especially when the starters don't quite go their 6 or 7. He can come in and kind of bridge that gap. And when you have 3 inning guys like Grayson Carter, you have 3 inning guys like Andrew Dukanich, who weekday starter, but can also come in and give you solid innings. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, but he can eat up some innings. And it's very valuable when you have these guys because you don't have to worry about, okay, who's going to come in and who's going to get us through. And so Ethan McIlvain, Brendan Cyber, you've got options now. You got guys that can come in. McIlvain, Dukanich, Grayson Carter. I think Grayson Carter's first guy out of the pen. You get crunch time. I think he's first out of the pen. Then I think it's McIlvain. Then I think it's Ginther. I think Ginther has an outside shot at the closer role, to be honest with you. Miller Green is somebody that has an outside shot at the closer role as well. Grayson Carter is a good long reliever, somebody that can come in 6th inning, throw 6th, 7th, 8th inning, and give way to whoever between Green and Ginther. I think McElvain's somebody that can eat up some innings too. So lots of options now. Some guys pitching really, really well. It's going to come down to some little things: who has the best command, who has the best control, who has the fewest walks. I mean, that's a stat in college baseball that's very, very important. Not so much in the major leagues, but who's throwing a heavier baseball. The whip stat. It's gonna come down to that as well. Like who's how effective are they? Do they allow base runners, or are they allowing guys to get hits and getting scoring position? Are they constantly getting themselves in jams? You got to have somebody that has an attitude that can get themselves out of a jam, or like you put them in a situation where they come in with bases juiced, no outs, and they come out unscathed. Like somebody that has the attitude to say, "Give me the baseball. I'll get us out of this jam," and boom, fan the next 3 guys. So it's just gonna come down to that, and you're gonna see that unfold each and every week. Like maybe Grayson Carter is your Saturday reliever. I think maybe he should be the Sunday reliever. I think McElvain should be the Saturday guy, and Duquesne should be the Friday reliever, first guy out of the pen. And then Ginther is your closer. And then you have just a combination of like Hawks or Cyber or Green, or somebody if you just need like a short reliever, like if you need one guy to throw an inning, if you need like 2 guys to throw an inning before you get to your closer, if Grayson Carter's been throwing up a lot of innings, or if Duquesne or McElvain have been tossing a lot of innings, you get those guys some work too. So anyway, very, 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 very positive weekend for the Vandyboys, Cameron Kozeal, pitching staff, the whole team really. But Kozeal, I had to give him his props, man. Freshman crushing the ball. So that's going to do it for us here at the Locked On Vandy podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen. Be sure to check us out each and every day. Find us on social media. Find the show at Locked On Vandy. Thank you to the everydayers. And we'll see you here tomorrow on a Tuesday. Anchor down. Catch you later, man. Peace. Goodbye.